clean the cosmological channels using these different maps. And they subtract from the data. Also very well known is what you call internal linear combination, ILC. ILC have a model where, okay, I will come back to the model here. Here the model is that the dust that you have at 857 gigahertz is the same as that one you have. It's just a scaling that you have in other channels. And you don't assume any spatial variation on the spectral index of the dust. So this is a very strong approximation as well. So in the template fitting, you have important approximation. And as I told you before, every time you are doing something, you have somewhere a model behind. Otherwise, you don't. There is always something. So you have to understand what is the model behind, and to check if you believe that this model is right or approximate or too crude or something like that. ILC, your model is, so you know the column of the CMB, so you consider that your data X is the CMB multiplied by a scalar value plus a residual, and the residual is assumed to be Gaussian. Again, this is a kind of approximation because dust is not a Gaussian field, and synchrotron as well. But then if you make this kind of assumption, then the least square is the optimal estimator, the least square estimator, and then you get this ILC technique. And you can do it in the wavelet space. This is a NILC technique, or you can do in the spherical harmonic domain, and this is a SMICA technique. And this technique is also very well known in statistics. It's called blue estimator. And here are the 4 maps provided by the Planck Consortium. This is a Bayesian one, ILC in wavelet domain, template fitting, and ILC in the spherical harmonic domain. And here is the official, the public release map, and you see that they have in painting the galactic center and the point sources to have something nice to present to the public. Now, I'm going to show you the sparsity map, which have been derived without any in-painting. And this time, you don't see anything on the galactic center, and we didn't have to in-paint. So sparsity was able to really recover the CMB even in the galactic center. And this is what you have published in this year. And now, if you look more specifically in the galactic center, this is the NILC solution. So you see that they've also used some kind of in-painting here. It's what they call diffuse in-painting. So they take what is in the border, and they diffuse inside the mask what is in the border. This is the 7 solution on this part of the sky. This is a SMICA solution. They have also used a diffuse in-painting. And here's the GMCA solution, which is a sparse recovery. Another way to look at the quality and the contamination of the map is to check if the map is contaminated by a Thermodoulovich effect, cluster of galaxies. This is very easy because you have a property of this cluster is their emission is 0 in one of the Planck channel, which is the 217 gigahertz. So if you subtract the CMB to this channel, you should not see the cluster because they are not in the 217 gigahertz channels. And if they are not in the CMB, by taking the difference, we should not see any cluster. So that's a very simple test on real data to check if the data are contaminated by TSZ effect, Thermodoulovich effect. And this is the difference between the NILC, the 7, and the SMICA map. And you see that's in the coma cluster, and in the 3 of them, in all of them, you see the cluster. In the sparsity map, you don't see the cluster. So the GMCA map was the only one which was not contaminated by the cluster. Another way to study the quality, it's always very hard to estimate the quality of results based on real data, right, without simulation. So we didn't have this result of the different group based on simulation, so we had to do on real data. If you assume that the power spectrum which has been derived by the MCMC technique is correct, so you can have an idea of the power of the CMB in the different wavelength bands. So if CL is the power spectrum, you can compute the power spectrum which is expected in each wavelength band of the CMB. So we take the decomposition in the wavelength decomposition of the CMB, and for each area we compute a local power. And this local power is compared, so D is the local power of the data, N is the local power of the noise, and this term will be very, if the data are contaminated, this term will be very high, so this term will be very small. So we take 1 minus the max over the scale, and this map is a good indicator of the quality of the solution. And here is what you have. So if it's blue, it's okay, and every time you start to see some colors, it means that you have contamination. And here what you have is SEVEMS, MICA, NILC, and GMCA. So again, GMCA clearly shows that at the final scale, you are clearly less contaminated than the standard official maps. That's another way to compare the results. If you look at the power spectrum, so the power spectrum is very sensitive to any small residual foregrounds. So people will never estimate the cosmological parameter without masking. That will never happen. Even if the quality of the map is beautiful, we know that it's never perfect. And a small bias on the power spectrum may have an impact on the cosmological parameters. So for cosmological parameters estimation from the power spectrum, you will always mask the data. So if you mask and you compare the spectrum, here's what you have. So we are very close to the official power spectrum that has been found, so there is no big differences. But there is one difference which is important. If you follow the CMB literature, Spergel in one of his papers showed that there was a bump in the official Planck power spectrum, and this bump was an artifact and was impacted the cosmological parameters. And this bump was at a multiple L equal 1800, so it's here, and you have in green the bumps that have been found in the Planck power spectrum, and we see that we don't have, in the GMCA power spectrum, we don't have this bump. So our map somewhere is cleaner, and we were able to not have this problem that have been found by Spergel. Looking at the anomalies, there are several anomalies which have been claimed already in the WMAP data. One of them is the cold spot. And this has been found by the group in Santander, and they claim that there was a cold spot in the data, and which is not compatible with the standard theory, and which could be explained by some kind of inflation model. And Planck somewhere has confirmed all of them. So the question now, and to do this work, Planck did mask around 30% of the sky, and a Wiener painting has been made. So that's a map that have been tested by the Planck consortium. And all the non-Gaussian studies have been done from this map. So the first thing we did is, because we have a full sky map, the first question that we have is, how aggressive should we be when we are doing this large-scale study? So we did a study with simulation, and we have study, so here is the size of the mask. So here we take all the data, and here we are masking more and more the sky. And this is for different statistical estimator of anomalies. And what we found out is when you have the quality of GMCA, in painting, masking and in painting is always worse than keeping everything. You see that the error due to the residual in the full sky is very small, and as soon as you in paint, then you start to have a large error. So the conclusion of this study is, when you have a map with the quality of our sparse recovery CMB map, and if you want to study the larger scale, you should not mask at all. Just take the whole data. And doing this, we have studied what is the impact of not masking on the cold spot. I remember you that one of the reasons of masking is that if you don't mask, because there are some residuals, the non-Gaussianity will be artificially high because of the residual. They will create non-Gaussianity in the data. So one of the reasons of masking is to not create this artificial non-Gaussianity in the data. So that's the scale where the cold spot appears. So we see that this feature here, the kurtosis is this value, and here we have only 25% of the sky. So now I'm going to increase the surface of the sky that you are keeping. And now we see that the kurtosis is decreasing. And more I take some data, these are the real data, the kurtosis is always decreasing. So we don't see at any point an increasing of the kurtosis. So the argument to mask because we are creating artifacts because of the result foreground doesn't hold at all. The kurtosis is always decreasing. So there is no reason to mask at all the data. And if you, so that's for the four different masks. And here is the normalized kurtosis, normalized using simulations. So what you see that if you mask a lot, so here you have the percentage of the sky. If you mask a lot, the kurtosis is quite high. It's almost 3. But as soon as you keep the data, then and here you keep all the data, the normalized kurtosis is just normal. You don't see any anomalies anymore. So the cold, sorry? No, you don't see it. And what we had is, so we studied also the other anomalies, and most of them just disappear. There is only one that didn't disappear, is the low power on the quadrupole. This one, it didn't, this one was remaining. So the conclusion on this CME map, I have maybe something else to, what time is it? Oh, it's time to break. Maybe I will I don't remember. I have 1 hour more, right? Okay, so, and there is a coffee break now. Okay, so we can have a coffee break. So if you have any question about this, and I can show you some final results afterward. Okay. Perfect. The problem is I don't know what's going on. I don't see it here, so it's very hard. And what I had to do is to remove it to run my presentation. Oh, is it this way? Yeah.